Welcome to Discovering. I'm a little bit sunburnt, as you can see. I'm standing in DeTour Village. That's the St. Mary's River behind me, and today we're doing some Atlantic salmon fishing on it.
Oh, there's another fish.
And we see where these Atlantic salmon are raised.
There's this world-class fishery in the St. Mary's River, and then we have this tremendous teaching tool here at the university as well.
So sit back and relax. It's Monday night, and it's time for Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Did you know our beautiful Upper Peninsula is one of the few places that offers world-class sport fishing for Atlantic salmon? This actually wasn't a widely known fact until the last handful of years. The St. Mary's River on the extreme eastern end of the UP has been stocked with Atlantic salmon for over 30 years by Lake Superior State University. I've heard that Atlantics are the most elusive salmon in the Great Lakes and put up a fun fight, so I had to find out for myself. I met up with guide Jason Carstens of True North Guide Service in DeTour Village, where the St. Mary's pours into northern Lake Huron.
Been fishing all my life and just love it, and I love taking people fishing. This is just another avenue and way to do that. And I just do this on the side, part-time. I'm full-time fire department for 22 years now, and so I do this just for the love of it. I love showing people what we got and how unique of a fishery it is here.
We're fishing the DeTour Passage, a 1 mile wide stretch of water between the eastern end of the mainland UP and Drummond Island.
I've seen Atlantics in this area up to 20 pounds. I've heard of some bigger ones. The majority of them I would say, are 5 to 10 pounds. So I kind of consider a 10-pounder a trophy up here. It'll put on a heck of a fight. Latin name is salmon salar, which is leaping fish. And usually they put on quite the show. It could be 15, 20 times they're leaping in the air. And so that's a lot of fun. And then you get other ones and they just want to go, they don't want to have anything to do with you, and they go straight down to the bottom. The Atlantics tend to be up nice and high. They like that, seems a little bit warmer water. But I think they're just chasing whatever is hatching and or the bait fish that are feeding on the hatch as well. They're very opportunistic. They're much more trout-like than salmon-like, I would say. They'll eat flies, they'll eat smelt and bait fish, just kind of whatever's available at that time. I have caught them down here and they're just like steelhead and they have June bugs in them. Yep, there you go. Oh, there he's on. You gonna reel it?
I'll let you reel it for me.
All right. Splashing on the surface a little bit. Come on, board. The board didn't pop, that's why it's going under the water. Make it a little extra harder. Fine. Now's when you get another one on. I think this one's a little tired now. Now wakes up. It's about 1.5 years old. That's how fast they grow. And so Lake Superior State will clip a different fin every year to signify the age. So, you know, you'll get some age classes and one of these will be clipped or one of those will be clipped. And that's how they keep track of their year class of fish. That one does have its adipose fin clipped, so it is microchipped. So if you turn the head in, the DNR will let you know when it was released and where it was released. And the DNR actually has a incentive, I'll say. They put your name in the lottery for a prize. My daughter had actually won it 2 years ago, and it was a $100 gift certificate. Definitely worth doing that and helping the DNR to let them know what our fish are doing.
While we waited for the fish to cooperate, we watched the freighters go by.
Challenges you sometimes when the shipping channel gets busy with the freighters, because they always win.
Being on the water so close to these giants was cool. I felt like a tourist seeing a bald eagle for the first time.
They're probably empty coming up because they're going to either be going to Marquette or Superior Duluth to pick up a load. Normally when they're outbound, they're empty. Little guy. Would say 15 to 20 inches. This is probably another 1.5 years old. Oh, calm down.
In early to mid-June, these Atlantics are in the DeTour Passage at the mouth of Lake Huron and will migrate 48 miles up the St. Mary's to Sault Ste. Marie.
And a lot of them will hang out there all summer long until they spawn, which is in November, end of October, November, depending on the water temps.
Then they come back.
And then they'll come on back. There's residents that do stay in the St. Mary's Harbor, but the vast majority of them come out here. I think it's a very big one again. I'm just trying to keep them out of that other line there. It's right there. Another state fish, the adipose fin is gone, so it's another microchipped fish.
After Jason caught 3 Atlantics and a bonus lake trout, it was my turn to reel in some fish.
I want you to experience it. It's a fight. They have a whole different attitude, and it's usually not nice.
I got my chance, and this fish, I couldn't budge.
Yep, just keep steady pressure. Keep that, yeah, that's a better fish. That's what we want to see.
My guess is it was bigger than the first 3. It kept ripping the board back on me, and then the next planer board went off.
Oh, there's another fish. Yeah, we got a double. Yeah. That outside board has fish now.
While I was fighting this fish, the 3 lines tangled up and the fish got off. I'm going with it was a huge 20-pound Atlantic. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh.
But there was still a fish on that furthest line.
There's something there. How it's still there, I have no idea. Oh, geez. All right, well, now we're in for some fun. You want a hand reel one in? It's definitely not the fish you were fighting.
That line was snarled too, so I had to hand line it in. It wasn't a big Atlantic, but it was my first.
Nice job.
This was going to be our last pass, but after that excitement, we had to try for just one more.
waking up.
Fighting the board, plus the current, and an aggressive salmon is a challenge.
Back up a little bit. Feisty for a little fish.
Boy, after that fight, I really thought that fish was going to be a little bit bigger. Thanks, Jason, for a great day on the water catching fish and watching freighters. After fishing, I drove up to Sault Ste. Marie to visit the Center for Freshwater Research and Education Fish Hatchery at Lake Superior State University to learn about the stocking program that has created such a unique fishery here in the Eastern UP.
It was the Aquatic Research Lab, began in 1977. I think the first group of Atlantic salmon that got stocked out was 1987. So there was about a decade where they were experimenting with different species of fish. They've reared a number of different species over there, but in the mid to late 80s, they more or less settled on rearing Atlantic salmon. The thing about Atlantic salmon is, from an angler's perspective, they're very desirable. They're really fun to catch. They fight super hard. Some people might not like this, but they're delicious. I think they're wonderful, but they're also very difficult to rear. The goal of our hatchery is student training. It's not production of fish, it's not to create a fishery. That has been a very happy, I don't want to say accident, more of a side effect of training students. So Atlantic salmon are very difficult to rear, so they're a perfect teaching tool, right? You know, if you make a mistake, you will know. These are very sensitive. So it's really a great model organism for teaching aquaculture because it's so difficult. Over the years, the popularity of the fishery has grown such that there's basically two benefits there. There's this world-class fishery in the St. Mary's River, and then we have this tremendous teaching tool here at the university as well.
The fish hatchery is located inside one of Sault Ste. Marie's landmarks, the Cloverland Hydro Plant on the St. Mary's River, an ideal location for successful rearing of the fish they're stocking.
One of the biggest advantages of our hatchery is the location. So those fish are reared in the same water that they're going to be released into. So for most of their life, they're in ambient river conditions. Whatever that temperature is out there, that's what they get. Whatever the water quality is, the pathogens, the parasites, that's what they get. So when they get stocked out, they're ready. They're ready for life in the wild. The one big challenge then is avoiding predation from birds and other fish. But they're at this tremendous advantage already. On top of that, we don't have to handle our fish to stock them out. It's basically like pulling the plug on your bathtub, pulling the drain plug. They go down a drain into the river. We don't have to net them, handle them, put them in a truck, ship them, and then dump them out or net them again. They just go right into the river. So all that is much less stressful than what would happen to a more traditional hatchery reared fish that may have been reared on well water or a different water source, and then they have to get handled and transported. So they often have higher mortality than our fish. So our location is a tremendous asset. And then the other benefit, like I mentioned before, is that we're not here just to produce fish. So we have time, right? We have the time to make mistakes and learn from that. It's just a different approach to rearing fish, and over the years has allowed us to be successful. If we were rearing Atlantic salmon as a state or federal facility for production, the Atlantic salmon program probably would have got shut down in the early years because it was very challenging. It took a long time to get success.
As we saw out fishing, all of our salmon were clipped. If LSSU stopped stocking, there would be no Atlantic salmon fishery.
It was one of our students doing a senior thesis research project, was the first to document reproduction of Atlantic salmon in the St. Mary's River. But the level of reproduction is so low and the survival to adulthood is so low that if we stopped stocking, they would just go away. They would just disappear. So they can reproduce, but it's not successful enough to establish the population.
To increase the Atlantic salmon numbers in the St. Mary's even more, the Michigan DNR also released over 42,000 Atlantics that day. Every one of those fish that Jason and I caught, students at LSSU had a hand in rearing. They start the rearing process right in front of the hydro plant.
The Cloverland hydropower plant was completed around 1904. So it's a very old building. A previous owner, LSSU Electric, they allowed us to have space in the east end here to build a fish hatchery, but then we also had some lab space in here. And that was the aquatic research lab. That is when all this began back in 1977. For about 20 years now, we've been able to get our own brood stock. So we collect adults right here off the back of the power plant. So our students come out on this ledge, they put a gill net over the edge, which is the outflow of the turbines here. So those fish are pulled out of the net, worked up and brought in, and then a couple weeks later they start stripping the eggs and fertilizing the eggs. This is our early rearing room, and we have two of our student workers here. We have Alana and Anissa. And if you can imagine, we're actually under the water level of the canal right now. So we're more than 10 feet below the surface of the canal. So most of our system is gravity fed, meaning the water just flows in and flows out, which is a tremendous advantage of this facility. When the eggs are being reared and the small fry or age 0 fish are being reared, we do rear them on heated and filtered water for a few months early on. That gives them a jump start and boosts their growth, because the river is right around 0 degrees for 0 degrees C, or right around 32 Fahrenheit for much of the winter, so they just wouldn't grow if we didn't heat that water. Our students are involved in every step of that process, and so they get to handle everything from the eggs all the way up to the adult life stage. So it's a tremendous training experience, learning experience for them, particularly if they're interested in Korean aquaculture. They hatch off around New Year's, and after they absorb their yolk sac, right around that time when they're going to start to feed, they're moved into these small raceways, and they stay in those small raceways for a few months. And so tonight we'll release our 1-year-olds from the large raceways, and then we'll disinfect all those, and then the little guys and gals will get moved into those larger raceways. So there's four large raceways in here, and then we have 2 more outside these walls near the turbines. And these are housing our yearlings, our age 1 fish. So they hatched off about 1.5 years ago, and they're gonna get sent on their way tonight out into the St. Mary's River.
A big thing I thought was interesting is this hatchery stocks at night to avoid immediate predation by birds. I stuck around the Sioux until 10 p.m. to watch the big release.
And then basically once I pull this screen up, you guys are free to start pushing the fish out, obviously.
This is the first release for Megan Thompson, the newest hatchery technician. The program was originally started by Roger Greil, who recently retired.
So I'm Megan Thompson. I am the sea free technician here, or the hatchery technician. So basically I am in charge of the whole hatchery here, and then I do educate some of the kids that come in here. So I have paid employees, volunteers, interns, and then apprentices. I was a student, so I actually learned underneath the old manager, Roger Greil. So a big thank you to him, because he taught me everything that I know. So I would not be here if it wasn't for him. And it was definitely a big milestone moment for me too, actually being like the first big year class, coming from the nursery room out into the big guy room. But for the big release, it was bittersweet, because it was my first year even as a student taking eggs, but I was very glad it went very well.
So we go raceway by raceway, and then all the raceways aren't perfectly pitched to the drain, and then the fish naturally go against the flow, so they'll try to get away from the drain. So we'll take some soft bristle brooms and push them into the drain, encourage them to go on their way. On average, we stock about 30,000 fish a year that are about 7 inches in length at the time that they go out. There's definitely some variability in those numbers depending on how things go, but those over the 30 plus years of the program, those are the averages. The majority of the fish probably leave the river and go to Lake Huron, and then when they mature, they'll come back.
And now that those fish are in the wild, the process starts all over again. There's a lot more that happens at LSSU's Center for Freshwater Research and Education and Discovery Center. Next week, we'll take a tour. That's all for tonight, and I hope to see you right back here next week for Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.